Thanks so much for joining my presentation on API protection against modern threats. My name is Sydney Cafaro, and I'm a senior product marketer here at ThreatX. And we work with security teams every day on protecting their APIs against threats like low and slow recon activity, bot-based credential stuffing, and other forms of modern threats. In this presentation, we'll talk about why protection for APIs is so important, how they've become an attractive target for cyber criminals, and what capabilities you should add to your requirements list when shopping for an effective threat protection solution. So with that, let's dive on it. To set the table, I want to recognize how hard it must be for folks gathering requirements for API security projects, evaluating vendors, and bringing in yet another solution for your teams to manage. Us vendors really haven't made it that easy on you, with using messaging and naming conventions that sound the same but explain different capabilities, such as what is runtime protection versus real-time protection? Can this vendor actually block attacks, or does it require an integration with my current WAF solution? And how can I make sure my APIs are protected without relying on me and my team to make a blocking decision? These are questions that we hear from security teams every day. And what I really want to emphasize is that relying on pure play API vendors who heavily integrate with legacy WAFs or gateways for blocking isn't effective protection for your APIs. And there's a few reasons as to why. First, this creates a disjointed approach to detecting and blocking attacks. Second, relying on integrations for blocking is not runtime or real-time protection. Thirdly, this approach requires more tools for your team to deploy and manage. And lastly, building secure APIs is really only half the battle. Now, let's dive into a few examples of how APIs are used every single day. What I want to recognize is that APIs are critical infrastructure. From banking APIs that are used for bill payment and loyalty programs, to healthcare APIs for telehealth services, and even utility APIs that help us track the energy consumption that powers our homes. APIs are critical infrastructure. They're used every single day, and they have access to all types of our personal data. And this is why they're such a prime target for attackers. Now, focusing on APIs as a target, Gartner predicted by 2024, API abuse and API-related data breaches will nearly double. And the news headlines in 2023 has only supported this claim. For example, a few breaches that were reported this year include the recent United States Patent and Trademark Office leaking sensitive data for years without any knowledge, various vehicle manufacturers producing BMWs and Mercedes with weak APIs, leaving drivers vulnerable to have their cars hijacked, and the most recent T-Mobile data breach, which resulted in 37 million users' information being stolen. So now that we've recognized the key target of APIs, let's also switch gears and talk a little bit about threat actors themselves and how they carry out these attacks. Really, these attacks are becoming more creative in how they target APIs, especially with the help of automation with botnets. Bad bots actually make up 30% of all internet traffic today. A prime example of how botnets are creating real-life problems for organizations is, for example, the lawsuit against Live Nation and Ticketmaster with the most recent Taylor Swift New Eras tour. The president and chief financial officer of Live Nation testified that the biggest problem it faced when producing the New Eras tour tickets to concert goers was the onslaught of bots that attacked the Ticketmaster servers, impacting, again, concert goers' ability to actually obtain tickets because they were getting bought out by bots. This is just one example of how these threat actors are targeting businesses with automated threats to gain access to sensitive information. In this example, it was takedown services, or even make money by reselling high desired products at a higher cost. This is a great example of a modern attack that APIs are facing. For those who are familiar with the OWASP Top 10, OWASP released its most recent Top 10 security vulnerability list for APIs this year, and it reflects the changing threat landscape to address new attack vectors that have emerged since the last version in 2019. New to the 2023 list is unrestricted access to sensitive business flows. And this is a security vulnerability that can occur in any API system and doesn't require high technical aptitude to actually exploit. This vulnerability allows users to exploit overuse of a sensitive business critical action that's being driven by an API service in order to harm the business. The ability to detect and stop these types of attacks should be a top priority on your API security list when evaluating various solutions to actually protect your APIs and ensure your business operations stay running. Now, let's talk about what capabilities you should be shopping for in an API security solution to actually stop this attack. And again, we'll use the Live Nation versus Taylor Swift lawsuit attack as an example. Behavior-based detection is crucial for identifying suspicious and malicious activity targeting your APIs. Traditional behavior detection observes everyday activity and baselines based off of abnormal usage. However, in this example, we'll talk through why it's so important for your solution to understand the flow of how applications are expected to be used, specifically with flow-based validation. In the above example, we can mimic a normal concert goer's activity of visiting a Ticketmaster website, finding the concert they want to attend, and purchasing a ticket. This is an example of a legitimate user flow, and thus the transaction is allowed through. Below is an example of how a botnet will repeatedly target an API that's responsible for business-sensitive operations, like purchasing a ticket in this example, to systematically buy up all the available inventory. It's important to understand the modern attacks that your APIs will be facing and using that knowledge to evaluate solutions. So ask yourself, would you rather have a solution that kind of shifts left and kind of shifts right? Or would you rather feel confident in a solution that can stand up against modern attacks to prevent data breaches? The last piece of this presentation is I want to walk through a brief demonstration of how ThreatX can help protect your APIs with risk-based real-time blocking, as well as using flow-based validation to confirm legitimate versus suspicious API traffic. Here we can see an example of ThreatX's API catalog, where we can use a specific API's traffic analytics to investigate this payment API, which we can see is responsible for holding sensitive information, but also has an increase in threats. If we dive in, we can identify the specific botnet that's generating so much noise and begin investigation of its activity. Here for this bot, we can see it continuously targeting the payment API and how ThreatX is able to identify, track, and then block this threat actor's suspicious behavior with risk-based real-time blocking. Now, ThreatX doesn't just protect APIs. ThreatX is a managed API and application protection solution. That means you'll never have to stress about the next attack that's coming. Thanks so much for joining my presentation on API protection for modern threats. If you'd like a more personalized demonstration, please request a demo by visiting us at ThreatX.com.